is he had a little journal that he kept in his pocket. Wherever he went, he wrote all his adventures and his information in that little journal. I was so impressed with it. I thought that was just the coolest thing. So what did I do? I went out and got myself a journal, and I thought, I'm going to start journaling. So I started writing stuff, and I started writing stuff, and I started writing stuff. And I wrote my brains out, and I wrote some more, and I wrote some more. And I thought, this is kind of interesting, it's kind of cool. But you know, what I didn't really realize I was doing to myself was actually starting to box myself in. And what I was doing was I actually created a box, and I put my brain in this box. And I realized that, you know, really the way my brain wanted to work, I wanted to light up with all these ideas. But I created this box for my brain, and it wasn't really working. I was just writing notes after notes after notes. And what I had actually done is I'd actually filled journals and journals with ideas, and I was just swimming in stuff, and I had no idea what was coming or going anymore. What I'd actually done is I created this little monster to take me over. But you know, I kept on journaling, and once in a while I'd get this kind of urge to do a little doodle in a journal. And I thought, but you know what? That's not what you do with a journal. What you do with a journal is you write in a journal. So I kept on writing, and I kept on writing, and I kept on writing. Because you don't draw in a journal, you journal in a journal. Of course that's what you do, right? But I thought, well, you know, just keep going. But then I started to realize, you know, really what was happening to me, I was just swimming and swimming and swimming in ideas. I needed some type of a big breakthrough. I needed to get some new And luck would have it, I came across this little book called A Haunt. In that book was a chapter called Mind Mapping. And there was all these little funny little diagrams of mind maps. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I put it on a shelf, and I didn't think about it anymore. And I didn't think about it, I didn't think about it. And then all of a sudden one day at work I had a problem. I went to the park with my usual linear journal, but I drew my first mind map ever. And it was this amazing experience, as if my mind completely exploded. I put so many ideas down on a piece of paper. I was shocked at what was happening. It was as if I had opened my brain up to a whole new world. My brain had just expanded. And look around in there, and all my ideas. It was it. I had got a roadmap for my brain, and I was able to drive through it and understand all the associations that I couldn't see before. And then I went one year to SIPSI for the first time, and the first talk I went to was this guy who was way out there, Bill Sterner. And he had this stuff, and it was like Picasso and Joyce and Chopin and Freud and collective consciousness. It was modern art. And I was like totally confused. How was I going to do it? Well, with nonlinear notes was the only way to capture it, and it was lots of fun. And I was a pretty happy guy then. I got an even bigger book this time because it was going so well. And I went to this talk, another guy, he was talking about his SIPSI fuzzy enough. Hey, John Cedric with a mustache, look at that. But I was able to map it all out with nonlinear notes because it was pretty fuzzy. How are you going to capture it? And I was a pretty happy guy. And then I went another year to SIPSI, and I went to this talk. It was called Digital Aboriginal. And this guy sat beside me. He kept on looking over my shoulder to see what I was doing. And during this talk, he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm taking my notes and mind maps. And little did I know at that time was to start a friendship. And I was pleased to say that eventually I could say you're a world famous author. And that's how I met him. Over my shoulder while I was talking. How exciting was that? But I kept on journaling. And I changed now to an artist journal to keep my notes in. And I started to put everything in there. This is a dream that I had once. I started to put my dreams. It was an invention that I had for a winged scooter that would fly, a little flip scooter. I put everything in my journals, and life just completely changed. Hey, look, here's me with hair, not like that. And then the journals kept it evolving, and I started not doing mind maps, but I started doing other things, metaphorical landscapes. And it was a whole new way of looking at things again, and I started mapping and mapping with all these different ways of looking at things. And things started to metamorphose. And eventually, there became this kind of holistic blend of stuff that I was doing. And I was able to put everything together in this constellating view on paper. It was a combination of mind maps and landscapes. You know, I had chased the monster away, and I was a pretty happy guy. And then I stopped and I reflected, and I said, well, look how I used to journal versus what I'm doing now. And And it was just the most marvelous experience. I was able to go back and compare them. What I realized was happening was that linear note-taking systems, such as outlines, simply can't keep up with the complexity of our thought. And I thought, wow, that is so true. And then if I go back in retrospective and I look at everything that happened, I started off with linear notes, and I really created a monster without realizing what I was doing. But then I started mapping, and I was a pretty happy guy. And in the end, I realized that that's how my brain really wanted to work when I started to constellate ideas on a piece of paper. And that's it.